they're commonly used, you'll see, with batteries, solar builds, campers, RVs, and other uses. They come from, these are 120 amp, this one here, Anderson plug, but they come from 50, I think, all the way up to 500, if I remember correctly. I believe 500 is the biggest I've seen. They usually, you see these in gray. That's the only way I've ever seen them. But they do come in like blue and red and yellow and different colors. And the purpose of that is that they're keyed differently. So let's just take red, for example. If I had a red one, it would only plug into another red one. These won't plug in all the way right now because of the spring is in the way currently, but once if we install it, it won't be in the way. So gray works with gray, red works with red. Now I think black also works with gray, but the reason for that is that, let's say you have a connection, an area where you have, like, say, multiple connections, and it's crucial that you don't cross plug them in each, so you can use the different colors, and you can't physically plug a red into a gray. So that helps make sure you chose the right one for the job. The housing is what they call is hermaphroditic. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but basically what that means is it's the same male and female in the same connector, and so they're exactly the same. So you just turn it over and they would connect that way. Now these springs are in the way right now and you can't get it together right now, but when the contacts go in, you can. So let me first show you this. Let's say this is from the wire. The wire goes in this end right here. So this is the positive, negative. The wire would go in here, and you can probably see that spring in there. So if you look at it from this side, this contact would go in. It's supposed to be oriented like this, with that little tongue. I call it like a little tongue facing down. I call this the tongue too. So the right is red, tongue down, and a little arch up. So the connector would go in just like this. And what happens is it pushes down on that spring, and then once it goes all the way in, that spring actually clips right up under. Whoops, sorry. That spring clips right under the edge of this little indent right there. There's a little indent in the spring. So it goes over and then clips right up in there, and you'll hear like a snap when you get it together. So that's how that works. Let me show you what would happen inside the housing here with these contacts. So as I mentioned, this is how the orientation with the lip down. So since these connectors are the same, to plug it in a different one, the other one would be upside down like that. So what happens when those connectors come together, the spring is pushing this one down, and this spring over here is pushing this one up. So they're trying to go in that direction. So they come together and touch here, and then it takes force to push the springs down or up, in this case, till they come over and make a contact right here. And that's how the contact is made. So the springs hold them together really good and tight, like that right there. And to get them apart takes sometimes quite a bit of pressure on these larger amped ones to pull, and then they finally come apart. Now, I mentioned these are silver or tin coated, and so over time, if you just left them alone, oxidation can build, but the way these are made is they slide and they actually wipe away the oxidation as you plug them in and out. So it's one of the benefits of the Anderson connectors. And another benefit, you're not supposed to pull these out under load, but if you do, they will be, when they separate right here at the tip, there'll be an arc, and that arc can actually damage the tips, and that's okay because the tips are not part of the connection. So the arc would actually happen here. So that's actually another benefit of these Anderson connectors. Now the smaller Anderson power poles, same thing, but these are just much larger and easier to demonstrate. Now when you order, like for example, when I ordered this 120 amp, I could choose the contacts that I want to come with. It would come with either 2 gauge wire, 4 gauge, or 6 gauge wire. This one actually is for 4 gauge. Now there's an A here for the Anderson brand instead of another company. Now I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try to get this in here. Let's see if I can zoom in. There's actually a little 4 at the bottom. It says SBPP 120 and a 4 at the very bottom there. One more time, get that in there. That means this one is for 4 gauge wire. If I ordered a different one, I could have got the slightly bigger ends for 2 gauge wire. Now I'm not going to assemble a wire with this. I really don't have a use case just yet for this. I bought this just to make the video. But at some point I'll need to build a cable. But how to do this, what you need is, in this case I showed you I had 4-gauge contacts here for this 120 amp connector. I have 4-gauge wire here. You would of course strip it, and I've seen some people actually do the soldering for this, but I would do crimping because that's what I have. I don't even have a soldering gun. So this is a hydraulic crimper, and you would just, that's the wrong size it's in here now, you would get size 4 and put on here. And I forget which power this one is, but I mean what ton pressure this one is, but this is a good big one, and that would definitely do the job. So you would crimp on the wire, making sure, if you remember, tongue down, tip or tongue, however you want to call it there, down, and you would lay it out and put your weighted wire over here behind it and make sure everything's right, because these are expensive, you don't want to mess up. And then you would put the wire in, and then you would use the crimper to crimp it, and then you would just push it in until it's snapped. And you do that for the negative wire too. So you see these holes here. You can buy different accessories, but the one that I've seen for this is it's basically little handles, because these can be sometimes hard to pull apart. It comes with these little handles you hook your fingers over and you just pull on both sides like that and pull it apart. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the Anderson power pole connectors. These are obviously smaller, and other than being smaller, one of the big main differences is that the housing comes in 2 pieces. And these 2 pieces actually can connect together. I don't know if you can see that, but there's these little grooves, and this side over here has a little piece that sticks out that actually slides into that groove. So let's do it here. So see, I slid it in. Now I configured that totally wrong, but that's fine. You can, so that just goes to show you can configure this in any configuration you want. Now the right way to do it is red on the right, tongue down. So if we put the red on the right, and then we put tongues down on both of them like this, that is the correct configuration. So we can slide them together just like this. Now you can leave them this way. I just tend to leave them this way, but a lot of people will put a little tiny dab of crazy glue in the middle to hold them together permanently. Now one possible downside, which is very rare, but I've seen a case to where a manufacturer built something that they actually had these in a different configuration, so your wire might not work with them if that was the case. But I always build them this way, and usually as long as you get the wires straight and everything, it works just fine without putting the crazy glue in there. So these Anderson power pole connectors have become very popular with solar builds, portable power stations, solar panel cables, ham radios, other radios, e-bikes, amateur astronomy, and more. They also come in a variety of colors, but 99% of the time, I've seen them in this red and black. They come in 15 amp, 30 amp, or 45 amp. Now the housings are exactly the same no matter which amp you choose. It's just that the contacts that go inside are different to hold different wire sizes. And actually you could make a 30 amp and a 45 amp and they'll plug into each other just fine. I want to show a close-up here of the housing and the 3 contacts that go inside of this Anderson power pole housings here. So the same housing, but it will fit any 3 of these. And the one on the left is the 15 amp, and then the 30 amps in the middle, a slightly larger hole for a larger wire size. And the one on the right, of course, looks totally different. The pieces that stick up are very similar to MC4 connections. So the crimper will actually take the top piece and curl it down and push it down into the wire and make for a really good tight connection. So same housing, all 3 different sizes. I wanted to also do a little close-up of the crimping tool, which is specifically made for these power pole connections. If you notice there on the top, there's actually a little chart there that gives you the wire sizes that fits inside these different sizes here. So 15, 30, and 45. And I'll show you when I actually build a wire here in a minute. But if you can see in the back, it's hard to see. In the back there's a little hole in that 15, 30, and 45. So the actual, those contacts actually slides into that hole all the way, and then that's when you make your crimp. And if you remember, I showed you just a second ago the 45 amp contact. And actually all of them have it, but at the very top there's a little tiny point that comes down, and that helps curl. If you remember, the 45 has like it's just sticking up like this, and when you push it up in there, it curls down on the wire. The 30 and 15 don't have that. It was just the round hole to put the wire. I want to show you. Here's a wire I previously built. I just want to show you how they plug together and unplug real quick. So remember, this is upside down to this one, so they will plug together just like this and snap together. And they hold pretty well until you force them apart. Now you shouldn't pull on the wires like this to pull it apart. You should grab it here and pull it apart that way.